And now, if our judges are ready, I know our contestants are ready, we will begin with our first competitor.
Black Boys Play the Classics by Toy Derricott. The most popular act in Penn Station is the three black kids in ratty sneakers and t-shirts playing two violins and a cello. Brahms. White men in business suits have already dug into their pockets as they pass, and they toss in $1 or $2 without stopping. Brown men in work-soiled khaki stand with their mouths opened, arms crossed on their bellies as if they themselves have always wanted to attempt those bars. One white boy, 3, sits cross-legged in front of his idols in ecstasy, their slick, dark faces, their thin, wiry arms, who must begin to look like angels. Why does this trembling pull us? A, beneath the surface we are one. B, amazing. I did not think they could speak this tongue. Thank you.
April Midnight by Arthur Symonds. Side by side through the streets at midnight, roaming together, through the tumultuous nights of London, in the miraculous April weather, roaming together under the gaslight, day's work over. How the spring calls to us here in this city, calls to the heart from the heart of a lover. Cool to the wind blows, fresh in our faces, cleansing, entrancing after the heat and the fumes and the footlights, where you dance and I watch your dancing. Good it is to be here together, good to be roaming, even in London, even at midnight, lover-like and a lover's gloaming. You the dancer and I the dreamer, children together, wandering lost in the night of London, in the miraculous April weather.
The Spring by Thomas Carew. Now that the winter's gone, the earth hath lost her snow-white robes, and now no more the frost candies the grass or casts an icy cream upon the silver lake or crystal stream. But the warm sun thaws the benumbed earth, makes it tender, gives a sacred birth to the dead swallow, wakes in hollow tree the drowsy cuckoo and the humblebee. Now do a choir of chirping minstrels bring in triumph to the world the youthful spring. The valleys, hills, and woods in rich array welcome the coming of the longed-for May. Now, all things do smile, only my love doth lower, nor hath the scalding noonday sun the power to melt that marble ice, which still doth hold her heart congealed, and makes her pity cold. The ox, which lately did for shelter fly into the stall, doth now securely lie in open fields, and love no more is made by the fireside, but in the cooler shade Amyntas now doth with his chloris sleep under a sycamore, and all things keep time with the season. Only she doth carry June in her eyes, in her heart, January. Thank you.
El Olvido by Judith Ortiz Cofer. It is a dangerous thing to forget the climate of your birthplace, to choke out the voices of dead relatives when in dreams they call you by your secret name. It is dangerous to spurn the clothes you were born to wear for the sake of fashion. Dangerous to use weapons and sharp instruments you are not familiar with. Dangerous to disdain the plaster saints before which your mother kneels, praying with embarrassing fervor that you survive in the place you have chosen to live. A bare, cold room with no pictures on the walls. A forgetting place where she fears you will die of loneliness and exposure. Jesús, María y José, she says, el olvido is a dangerous thing. Thank you.
Personal by Tony Hoagland. Don't take it personal, they said. But I did. I took it all quite personal. The breeze and the river and the color of the fields. The price of grapefruit and stamps. The wet hair of women in the rain. And I cursed what hurt me. And I praised what gave me joy. The most simple-minded of possible responses. The government reminded me of my father, with its deafness and its laws. And the weather reminded me of my mom, with her tropical squalls. Enjoy it while you can, they said, of happiness. Think first, they said, of talk. Get over it, they said, at the school of broken hearts. But I couldn't, and I didn't, and I don't believe in the clean break. I believe in the compound fracture, served with a sauce of dirty regret. I believe in saying it all and taking it all back, and saying it again for good measure, while the air fills up with I'm sorries, like wheeling birds, and the trees look seasick in the wind. Oh, life, can you blame me for making a scene? You were that yellow caboose, the moon, disappearing over a ridge of cloud. I was the dog, chained in some fool's backyard, barking and barking, trying to convince everything else to take it personal, too.
Abandoned Farmhouse by Ted Kooser. He was a big man, says the size of his shoes on a pile of broken dishes by the house. A tall man, too, says the length of the bed in an upstairs room. And a good, God-fearing man, says the Bible with the broken back on the floor below the window, dusty with sun. But not a man for farming, say the fields, cluttered with boulders and the leaky barn. A woman lived with him, says the bedroom wall, papered with lilacs, and the kitchen shelves covered in oilcloth. And they had a child, says the sandbox made from a tractor tire. Money was scarce, says the jars of plum preserves and canned tomatoes sealed in the cellar hole. In the winter's cold, says the rags in the window frames. It was lonely here, says the narrow country road. Something went wrong, says the empty house in the weed-choked yard. Stones in the field say he was not a farmer. The still-sealed jars in the cellar say she left in a nervous haste. And the child? Its toys are strewn in the yard like branches after a storm. A rubber cow, a rusty tractor with a broken plow, a doll in overalls. Something went wrong, they say. Thank you.
The Gift by Lee Young Lee. To pull the metal splinter from my palm, my father recited a story in a low voice. I watched his lovely face and not the blade. Before the story ended, he'd removed the iron sliver I thought I'd die from. I can't remember the tale, but hear his voice still, a well of dark water, a prayer. And I recall his hands, 2 measures of tenderness he laid against my face, the flames of discipline he raised above my head. Had you entered that afternoon, you would have thought you saw a man planting something in a boy's palm, a silver tear, a tiny flame. Had you followed that boy, you would have arrived here where I bend over my wife's right hand. Look how I shave her thumbnail down so carefully, she feels no pain. Watch as I lift the splinter out. I was 7 when my father took my hand like this, and I did not hold that shard between my fingers and think, metal that will bury me, christen it, little assassin, or going deep for my heart. And I did not lift up my wound and cry, death visited here. I did what a child does when he's given something to keep. I kissed my father.
"13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird" by Wallace Stevens. Among 20 snowy mountains, the only moving thing was the eye of the blackbird. I was of 3 minds like a tree, in which there are 3 blackbirds. The blackbird whirled in the autumn winds. It was a small part of the pantomime. A man and a woman are one. A man and a woman and a blackbird are one. I do not know which to prefer, the beauty of inflections or the beauty of innuendos, the blackbird whistling or just after. Icicles filled the long window with barbaric glass. The shadow of the blackbird crossed it to and fro. The mood traced in the shadow an indecipherable cause. O thin men of Haddam, why do you imagine golden birds? Do you not see how the blackbird walks around the feet of the women about you? I know noble accents and lucid, inescapable rhythms. But I know, too, that the blackbird is involved in what I know. When the blackbird flew out of sight, it marked the edge of one of many circles. At the sight of blackbirds flying in a green light, even the bawds of euphony would cry out sharply. He rode over Connecticut in a glass coach. Once a fear pierced him in that he mistook the shadow of his equipage for blackbirds. The river is moving. The blackbird must be flying. It was evening all afternoon. It was snowing, and it was going to snow. The blackbird sat in the cedar limbs.
Insomnia by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Thin are the night's skirts left behind by daybreak hours that onward creep, and thin, alas, the shred of sleep that wavers with the spirit's wind. But in half dreams that shift and roll and still remember and forget, my soul this hour has drawn your soul a little nearer yet. Our lives most dear are never near, our thoughts never far apart, though all that draws us heart to heart seems fainter now and now more clear. Tonight, love claims his full control, and with desire and with regret, my soul this hour has drawn your soul a little nearer yet. Is there a home where heavy earth melts to bright air that breathes no pain, where water leaves no thirst again and springing fire is love's new birth? If faith, long bound to one true goal, may there at length its hope beget, my soul that hour shall draw your soul forever nearer yet. Thank you.
Sanctuary by Jean Valentine. People pray to each other. The way I say you to someone else, respectfully, intimately, desperately. The way someone says you to me, hopefully, expectantly, intensely. Hugh Osterhuus. You, who I don't know. I don't know how to talk to you. What is it like for you there? Here, well, wanting solitude and talk, friendship, the uses of solitude to imagine, to hear, learning Braille, to imagine other solitudes, but they will not be mine, to wait in the quiet, not to scatter the voices. What are you afraid of? What will happen? All this leaving and meetings, yes, but death. What happens when you die? Not scatter the voices, drown out. Not make a house out of my own words to be quiet in another throat, other eyes. Listen for what it is like there. What word, what silence, allowing uncertain to drift in the restlessness, repose to run like water. What is it like there right now? Listen. The crowding of the street, the room. Everyone hunches in against the crowding, holding their breath against dread. What do you dread? What happens when you die? What do you dread in this room now? Not listening. Now. Not watching. Safe inside my own skin. To die not having listened, not having asked, to have scattered life. Yes, I know. The thread you have to keep finding over again to follow it back to life. I know. Impossible sometimes. Thank you.
And that's the end of round 1.